You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Hey everyone, thank you very much for hitting that play button. This is another episode of the Dave Bullis Podcast. Before we get to today's episode, I just want to say two very quick things. Thank you to everybody who has given me a little bit of feedback on how I would have written it, which I'm now renaming Total Rewrite. The pilot episode, which was Suicide Squad, it's up right now if you haven't listened to it yet. And I put it up in the stream of this podcast just to sort of get the feel and the tone, just to see what people think. And I want to say thank you very much. Everyone really likes the flow of the podcast. It's really different, and there's nothing really out there like it. And I've been sort of pitching it off a couple of people. I'm actually going to give the podcast its own feed separately because I probably will end up doing that most of the time. Just because it's also easier to separate it, because this one can be more of the interview, the discussion process, and that one's more of, just pitching ideas, and every week. You'll get a different viewpoint, and as me and my co-host just going back and forth and just pitching all these different ideas and for different projects. For the first episode, it's Suicide Squad. Second episode, we're doing Friday the 13th. We've already actually recorded the episode, and for the third one, we haven't decided yet, but I'm going to be launching that soon. And I really, really would like to get that on iTunes News and Noteworthy. So when it comes out, I'll let everyone know. But again, if anybody could help by just giving it a review when it's out, it's not out yet. But when it does come out, I'm going to do something special because I'm just dead set on getting it into iTunes News and Noteworthy. That would be amazing. And I also want to give a special shout out to Michael Kehoe, who has been a past podcast guest. His trailer for The Hatred is over 20 million views already, and that's absolutely amazing. I mean, it has gotten shared like crazy, and I'm going to put the link to the trailer in the show notes at davebullis.com, and it's just, how well this is done is unbelievable, and it kind of ties into with my guest this week, because we're going to talk about his company, Viral Idea Marketing, creating the zombie run, and creating stuff like this, media that gets shared. Creating all this stuff and cutting through the noise. So without further ado, let's get to the episode. This is episode 174 with guest David Feinman. See, you call me Bullis already. We're friends already. Look at that.
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking 2 seconds ago how, people that know you call you Bullis and people who don't call you Dave. So I took the Bullis option.
Oh, awesome, man. All my friends call me Bullis. And I've tried to get the Twitter handle at Bullis, but some guy has it and he won't give it up, and he's never tweeted once. Can you believe that?
Did you try offering him, is he for sale? Are you able to pay him off?
I offered him money. He turned it down.
Really? And he still hasn't tweeted.
Yeah, and I said to him, I said, listen, his name's not even Bullis. His name is like Al Rosinski or something.
Oh my God.
And I said, and so I complained to Twitter, like
of course.
That's my first thing. I'm going to complain to Twitter. So I complained to Twitter, and they basically said there's nothing they could do about it. And I said, how the hell does any of this work? First off, his name's not even Bullis. It's Al Rosinski. And secondly, I'm actually Bullis, and I actually tweet. And this is how neurotic I am, Dave. I actually got all my analytics together, and I said, look at this. I am clearly doing something for your platform, and they still wouldn't do anything for me.
Wow. Maybe you just need to up the ante. Maybe you got to offer him $3 instead of $1.
Seriously, there has to be something I'm doing wrong. But I'm sorry, enough about me and my Twitter problems. But I wanted to talk about you, Dave, and just all the things you're doing with Viral Ideas Marketing, and all the cool stuff you're doing. So just to start off, you're a Temple grad. I actually was a TA at Temple.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, for one semester, then they kicked me out.
Why did we got to pause there. Why did they kick you out?
No, I'm joking around. They didn't
Oh,
kick me
okay,
out.
fair enough. See, I thought there was like a cool story there. And that could have been neat, but unfortunately, you like lasted.
Yeah. Seriously, I should have made up something on the spot. I should have been like, so. But that's pretty cool though. You actually graduated from Temple. So first I want to ask why Temple, and also what did you actually major in at Temple?
Yeah, so why Temple? So I actually did my first 2 years at Bucks County Community College. They had a program where you could go for 2 years at Bucks County Community College, 2 years at Temple. And I've always been an entrepreneur, so I started out at Bucks and did that thing because I was working on a company at the time, and then kind of went over to Temple after that. That's where I started this current venture. So basically, I had I had a great time at Temple, and the reason I went to Temple, it's kind of a weird one. I went down to tour the school, and I went and ate at one of the food trucks, and I really liked the food at the food truck. I think I had a muffin or something weird like that, and I went to Temple literally because I had a good meal at a food truck. Because I've never been like a big school person, so I'm like, all right, this is 45 minutes from where I grew up. Like, they have good food, so I guess I'll go here. So that was kind of my line of thinking.
Well, the school is huge, though. I mean, it's like the size of a small city, basically. And you go to Temple, and then you go to some of the other colleges in the area. I mean, some of the other colleges in the area are like a postage stamp compared to Temple.
God, yeah. Temple. I mean, and they're growing too, which is amazing for any past grad to just have that as something that's expanding.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and their film department, which is I don't know if you've ever actually just gone through there and just seen all the things that they got going on. It's kind of funny because when I was actually TAing there, I actually went through and they had a small black box theater, right?
Okay.
So the small black box theater was
that was their department.
Yeah, it was literally bigger than in the entire TV studio,
oh my God.
which I was working at. Because I actually, at the time, I worked at another school full time, and I'm sitting there going, "My God, this black box theater is already bigger than like the entire TV studio, and this is one thing. Like, let's see what's on the opposite side, right?" So it's just unbelievable, and just working with their film and TV department. But so when you actually, you were lured in by the food. So you had this.
Food.
You had this muffin.
And unfortunately, it was a great school. It was a great school to be lured in by like this wonderful muffin at this place. The Temple, I owe it to that one food truck. And if you know anything about Temple, I don't know like who the listeners are. Temple is one of the great schools for food trucks. So I mean, right up and down. And I don't know if you remember this, Bullis, but like up and down the streets at Temple is just all food trucks. And it's it's a great culture. But I studied entrepreneurship there. They have like one of the top programs in the country for that. So we actually recently, as an alumni, you can enter in their business plan competition, and we just entered their competition this year, and we were one of the winners of the competition, and actually won some money and some resources from Temple for that, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's freaking huge, man.
Yeah.
So, just to go back for a second about the food truck, how it lured you in, it was actually funny because when I was working at that other school, they had this big cookout, right? And they were saying, hey, everybody come on campus. This is our open house. Come on and try all this great stuff. I was right there, right? And this dad bites into this burger, right? And he goes, well, I'm writing the check to Drexel right now. And let me tell you, later on, and by later on, I mean a couple minutes later, I tried a burger, not the same burger. Yeah. It tasted like somebody stepped on it and then put it in the bun or something. And I said, what the hell happened here? This is like grade Z meat. So I'm sitting here going, this is how you're going to market your school to potential students is by having like low grade food. Like, who the hell is going to be impressed by this? And seriously, when that dad said that, I'm like, man, the food really does matter at these schools. It makes a big difference.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah, and it's because you think about it, if you're a parent, right, you don't want your kid going and having like some slop they get in summer camp, especially if the parents are paying for it.
You want a proper meal.
Seriously. So it does make a lot of difference. But yeah, I mean, it's so cool that again, Temple, again, we live so close, by the way, everybody. That's how Dave and I actually met. So it's so everyone, it's like this whole Philly centric thing we're talking about here. Speaking of which, so Dave, where do you go to get a good cheesesteak in Philly?
Oh, that's a good question. So, I was actually on a podcast I think it was a week ago or maybe this week, and they asked me which cheesesteak, Pat's or Gino's. And I actually tell people to go get a pretzel from Philly, because a lot of people from Philly assume cheesesteak's all we got. But we have the pretzel, and I think the pretzel is the underrated Philly item. I think the Philly pretzel is something that should be talked more about.
Maybe it's I don't even notice it because I have so many pretzels from Philly.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it's something I don't even think about.
But if you go down south, it's all super pretzel. It's not, it's the other, like the other. This is not a video, but I'm doing the twist on Skype, and it's one of those. It's one of the twisters, so it's different. It's different than Philly pretzel, which is the figure eight. So I think it doesn't get much attention. But I'm not as partial to the cheesesteaks as I am to the pretzel.
I see. Because, I always ask that to Philly-centric people, because every time someone comes to Philly, they're like, where should I go? Pat's or Gino's? And my response is, Philly people don't really go to Pat's or Gino's unless it's like at night after a sports game. Then it's kind of becomes
then you're
Pat's
going to
Gino's.
Pat's or Gino's,
Yeah. Or if you're by the stadium, you go to Tony Luke's. But then again, I said, and they ask, well, during the day, where do you go? And I'm like, well, there's John's Roast Pork, which is awesome. There's Jim's on South Street, which is really
Jim's is
good.
Great. I had an old office up by there, but right next to Jim's. Jim's and what's the pizza place there? The big slices. Lorenzo's.
Oh, Lorenzo's. Yeah. For some reason, I was about to say somebody else's pizza place. There's a guy who actually in Philly, he started a pizza place, and he actually charges everyone like $1 a slice. It's actually really cool.
Oh, it's Rose's Pizza. The guy Mason.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. By the way, everyone, this podcast is going to be more than just about food. So,
I'm sorry. Like, we shifted your whole podcast. I know this is like the video marketing podcast. Maybe this will be a good transition. But we spent the first, like, we're foodies first, and then we're video guys second.
Yes. Everyone's like, "What the hell am I listening to?" It's just two guys
talking about freaking cheesesteaks and pretzels and like where to get pizza in Philly. Which I guess we're experts on that now.
Yeah, seriously.
A whole side thing going.
So if people are listening ever do travel into Philly, they know where to go now about where to get pizza and cheesesteaks and pretzels and everything else. So you graduated from Temple, and you actually graduated with studying entrepreneurship. So what was your first steps outside of college? Was it actually trying to start your own business, or actually starting your own business? Yeah.
So it's actually an interesting story. I'll back up a little bit. So while I was in college, and while I was in high school, actually, I started my first business at 16. And eventually went on to start, it was a smaller business, but I went on to start a company called the Zombie Run. So we went on tour all around the country, about 16 cities, grew the whole thing using video marketing, social media, and kind of eventually progressed into doing, video marketing consulting while I was in college. And that's kind of where the seeds of my company now started, Viral Ideas. So basically we consulted with companies to teach them how to use social media and video and stuff like that. And I didn't think I was going to start a company right out of school. I was actually interviewing with Google. I was like third round interview with Google. I had an offer on the table from like one of my professors who like wanted me to work from them. And I just said, I love doing this. I love like consulting with people, doing videos. And I was getting more and more clients. So just said, all right, I'm just going to start another one. Like, I guess I guess my true identity is I'm an entrepreneur. I've done it from the time I was 16. I did it while I was in college. So why stop now? Let's do another one and have some fun with it.
So I have to ask, what was it like, actually even getting an interview with Google? Because I hear it's incredibly difficult to even get an interview, one, and then two, to even get past the first round's incredibly difficult.
So one of my friends actually referred me, which is a good way in the door. They asked me a question about, I'll never forget this. So they asked ridiculous Google questions. And the question that I had was, let's say you're a traffic cone manufacturer in California. How would you determine the demand for traffic cones in California? And I came up with an answer. I don't know, I'm not working at Google right now. I have a phenomenal company that I love very much. But I think my answer to that question might have had a slight impact on the reason why I didn't get hired. So.
What was your answer?
I think I answered something like I would like survey I would survey the construction in like a certain sample size of a couple roads, and then extrapolate that out across the square footage and use the number of cones per mile or whatever. I don't think like that, but I thought it was like a logical answer.
Well, is there ever really a right answer to
No.
to those questions?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I always wondered. I mean, because I had a friend of mine who went into an interview with Google or Facebook, and he actually they made him code, and they said you can't have a computer, just use a whiteboard, and you have to write it out. And he was like, "Well, why am I doing this?" And finally, he got it after the interview was over, right? He got it, finally understood. He goes, well, they want to take away all your tools to see what you can do when you don't have all your strong points. They want to see, do you sort of fall apart?
Yeah.
How do you handle this? I kind of get it. At the same time, I'm kind of like these open-ended questions,
They're tough, right?
Yeah. You're kind of wondering, like, is there really, if I say anything, so go back to that traffic cone question. If I say something like, well, I wouldn't do it at all, I would just basically, I'd go sell something else or whatever. I don't know. Is that even right? So do you use questions like that? If you're hiring for viral idea marketing, David, do you ask those type of questions? Do you say like, how many traffic cones do you have to sell in an hour or whatever?
So no, but I'll tell you what we do that it is interesting if you want me to share.
Absolutely.
So what we do is, I mean, the first thing, obviously, with video guys, we look at their work. The work is either good by our standards or not good by our standards. And then we hire really based on cultural fit after that. Everything after the question is this work good enough and up to our standards, is will you fit in here and do you fit with our culture, are the questions we try to get to. And, we found that we've been able to create a great company culture, now at 11 people, because we've asked questions that aren't necessarily how many traffic cones can you fit on the state of the road. And Google, I mean, has a great reputation for having a great culture, but something we're trying to create is just a lot of togetherness and stuff like that. So I think it helps with creativity to have a good culture. So
yeah, absolutely. You got to find that team that sort of works together, and that's what I talk a lot about here on the podcast. And as it relates to, film and even, and marketing, obviously, and production, because if you're going to be spending, an inordinate amount of time with people, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and, when tempers flare, you want to make sure that everybody is on the same page and not just going to freak out and start clashing. Because, something I found out is you can really tell a lot about a company, not in times of like when everything's going good, but when things are going bad.
Yeah, I think what's interesting too is there's there's wartime generals and there's like peacetime generals, right? So like, this is from like hard things about hard things. It's a book about running a company. Basically, like a wartime general is the CEOs and the leaders operating in 2008. When stuff's really bad. Or even like when companies go through a rough patch, those are the leaders that could pull a company through or pull a group of people through. And there's the peacetime generals that are kind of like I think what you see now is, a lot of companies that are, there's a great economic time right now. There's a lot of companies that are doing incredibly well just because it's a great economic time. And when that downfall happens, it'll be interesting to see kind of who makes it out alive. And I think it'll be a lot of the wartime generals that do that. Yeah,
that's very true. A lot of the guys who maybe can make the hard decisions, the wartime generals, the people that, and the peacetime generals, maybe they can, well, just to sort of try to put what I'm trying to say into another sentence. I'm kind of running myself into a corner here, but it basically, if everybody can run a company when it's doing well, you know what I mean? Everything's going great. You can put anybody in there, and then but it's really when times go bad, and you're like, well, what are my leaders made of? What are my managers made of?
Right.
What are my idea people made of? And sometimes you see that, and a bad day, you know what I mean? It doesn't have. And when I say bad, I don't mean just everything's going to crap, like the economy's going down, or something else. I mean just in general, like a bad day. Like, I mean, you've been there, Dave. You walk in, your phones don't work, your computer's crashed, you got a flat tire on the way to work, and you're like, what the hell is going to go wrong now? You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where, well, you could say, well, nothing's getting done today, or you could try to just make something out of this bad day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I think too many people default to, oh, it's bad, I'm not going to do anything, I'm going to lay on the sofa, you know? So not to get kind of inspirational with it, but I think you know, half of a bad day is just a mindset. You know, if you're having a bad day, the best way to get out of it is to go do something good.
Yeah, no, very true, very true. So, you know, just to sort of talk about again about your company and some of the things you've done. When we talk about Zombie Run, I actually saw the Zombie Run, and I was like, we got to talk about this. You know, with zombies have exploded over the past couple of years. You know, they've ebbed and flowed. You know, because with Romero's original trilogy of zombies, and then you have the remake of Dawn of the Dead. You have The Walking Dead on TV now. You have all the, you know, when you first launched this idea, was it met with resistance from different people, or was it the complete opposite, and where you had, you know, maybe even investors or producers or somebody else going, holy crap, Dave, this is amazing. How come no one's done this before?
We were met with a lot of people that were really fans of the brand. So when you think about the zombie market, right? Let's break it down. We'll kind of do this in like a non-zombie way. There's a lot of hardcore zombie fans that watch every zombie movie. They like to, you know, go to the Comic-Cons. They like to do all this stuff, but they don't have necessarily interest in running. But they watch these zombie experiences. They watch The Walking Dead. They watch these different, you know, post-apocalyptic movies, and they kind of want to have that experience. So the success of the Zombie Run was that experience in real life. So we actually designed the set of the zombie. I call it the set, but the course of the Zombie Run like a Hollywood set. So we actually sat down and we had the team watch for like 2-3 days. We had them watch, you know, 15, 20 zombie movies. And we basically pulled out all the archetypal elements of a Hollywood zombie movie, and we incorporated them into the race. So everything from like the helicopter overhead to the fog and the smoke machines. And the zombies never really come out in a zombie movie until like 20 minutes into the movie. So you wouldn't see the zombies until to the end of the first half mile, just to build suspense.
And also it kind of works well too, because I'm sure you attracted a lot of people who never actually worked out before that day. So they're like, all right, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to get a full head of steam, and I'm just going to sprint to that finish line. And I'm sure by like, I don't know, maybe like 5 minutes in, they're just like, oh God, what did I do to myself?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of non-athletes participating. A lot of people that would like show up smoking. Like it was an interesting crowd, and we loved every minute of it. You know, it was a good bunch of people.
So when they finally got to the zombies, they were so tired.
They were so tired that they were just like, take my life. You know, it's over. You know, you guys win this round. You know.
So again, with all the zombie movies that you analyzed, like what were some of the better zombie movies that you remember analyzing?
My personal two favorite were I Am Legend and Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead because it was well produced, but it was still cheesy and funny at the same time. And I Am Legend because it's very rare that you see a movie like that tells so much story without sound. And for the first bit of the movie, there's almost like no sound. It's like one character and like his dog for like a good bit of the movie until he meets that girl. So I kind of even see that with our work at Viral Ideas is some of our best work is the work that we're able to do that stands alone without any sound, you know, and just uses the visuals. So those were kind of my two favorites for what it's worth.
Yeah, two great movies, by the way. Shaun of the Dead is freaking awesome. When it came out, I was held by my thumbs not to watch it because I was like, I don't want to see a zombie movie that makes fun of zombie movies. Then I saw it and I was like, oh crap, this is awesome. Why did I not want to watch this? It's
like honestly, ironic. The whole thing's like ironic.
Yeah, and it's funny too because you think about it, and if it really did happen to somebody, like a zombie outbreak happened, right? You would go to like some place that you knew was safe. And his idea was literally a pub, you know, that was basically what he called a fortress with a rifle over the bar.
Yep.
And that was his idea of like the mecca or the sort of like ultimate goal of safety was this right here.
That's where I would be.
Just in a bar
Just at a
with
bar,
a gun over it.
the gun overhead.
And also I love how his idea of how it's going to work too, because it's how most people are. It's going to work out. We're just going to go there, all drink to safety, and then and things are just going to kind of work out.
Yeah.
So when you take the zombie run, and you started to actually what year was that, by the way, that you worked with the zombie run?
Oh, geez, so we started that in 2012 and had it till 2013. So we had about 35,000 people do it around the country in a year.
So when you were doing that, YouTube was obviously YouTube at that point. Facebook Live wasn't there yet. So if you did it differently now, like in terms of just marketing, what would you have done? What would you do differently if you did it now? Because I mean, things have changed so much in terms of just social media marketing and video in general.
I would have put. I mean, we put, for the time, we put a lot of, what was a lot of money into social video. I would have done more clips. We did a lot of, basically we would make like a little zombie movie after every event. I would have done more. I would have done more, just more video. We invested kind of all over the place a little bit because we still did some radio buys, but most of the revenue and traffic was just driven through Facebook ads. So kind of hindsight's 2020. I wish I just poured more into social because it just works so well.
And Facebook ads. A lot of my friends actually use Facebook ads in marketing and stuff like that. And again, it goes back to video and finding out, getting all those hits off of Facebook. By the way, just as a side note, a friend of mine has a movie trailer up right now for the movie called The Hatred.
Okay.
And it is over 10 million views.
It's amazing.
Right. Yeah. And it's just people are sharing it left, right, and center. And I actually saw the numbers and I was like, holy crap, you guys went over 10 million freaking views, and the movie doesn't come out until September. So like just seeing that type of response of those numbers, now people have to look at that and go, geez, is Facebook going to take over YouTube in terms of getting trailers out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just trailers. Like I think what's interesting, and I know a lot of this audience is very movie driven, but so we work with a couple local businesses, and one in particular, you think, geez, like could I ever make a video that would pop a little bit on Facebook for a dental practice, and we work with a dental practice, and we with just a couple bucks on Facebook and a well produced video, we were able to I think we're pushing 20,000-30,000 views for like a local dentist, so I think the power of it is just in the targeting and the ability to kind of put the right content in front of the right people, at the right time.
Yeah, that targeted marketing, and to your example about a local family dentist, I'm sure people in the area who could actually go to that dentist, it would, obviously it makes more sense because like if you do a radio broadcast or try to buy an ad on TV, people will get those and they're not in the area. They're not going to travel, 100 miles to go see Dr. Tom or whatever. But if it's right down the street or in the neighborhood or whatever, they're more susceptible to actually go and say, hey, wait, that's commercials right in the neighborhood. And it's all that targeted marketing, which is what Facebook does so well.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's say you're going to do a TV buy or you're going to put something in the newspaper. We're able to reach that 30,000 people with, just a fraction of the dollars. And you're hitting them somewhere that they're not used to being hit with something like this. So I think the power of it, and the reason your friend got 10 million views is because people aren't used to seeing these movie trailers on Facebook. It's become I've seen a lot more of that happening, in the Facebook environment, and it's just blowing up.
So, and we briefly touched on your business, Viral Ideas Marketing. And, obviously it's, you're about an hour away from me and, just seeing like, these marketing companies like yourselves. And it's really cool because I think it opens up a lot of possibilities, not just for the consumer, but also for businesses, because now a lot of these small businesses do need commercials and they don't know where to go to. You know what I mean?
And what's interesting is we don't even consider them, we don't like the word commercial per se, because commercial us is a 30-second spot. Mm-hmm. But with Facebook and YouTube, people really want to see a story. And like I don't know, I'm curious to hear your opinion too, but they want to see the same structural archetype as a movie or a television show, because that's what's entertaining. When you watch a movie or you watch a TV show, it's the same format. And kind of as filmmakers, we know that end of it. But as as marketers, you don't really think about it. You don't really think, oh, I'm just going to do my commercial, I'm going to do my pitch. But if you do basically a 3 to 4 minute movie versus doing a 30-second commercial, I feel like the impact is, we've seen it with our clients, just so much more.
Yeah, there is a lot of storytelling involved, and I concur, because that is what people want to see on social too. Even when they're telling a joke or something, it's they actually want to see something relatable, or they want to see be told something. I think people are susceptible now to being marketed to,
of course,
or being sold to. So if you're actually not trying to just say, how could I sell this, but how could I actually tell a story with this, I think it's a little more powerful. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh yeah, 100%.
So let me ask you this: when people pitch, or maybe even go to you and say, "Hey, Dave, I have a local business. What could we do?" And I have to ask this question because it's in the name of your business, going viral. I imagine a lot of people have an idea of what viral is. You know what I mean? I'm sure they probably go, "Hey, listen, I want to get shared on the local news network or whatever. I want to get shared here." And if people come to you and say they want to go viral right off the bat, do you just immediately talk them off that ledge? Don't even worry about that.
So viral to us is probably not what you think. People think viral and they think millions of views, news appearances, all that. But it starts with a seed, and that seed is sharing. So the reason something goes viral and the reason something has a sticky potential is because someone shares it. So when we design videos and when we design stuff, movies and television shows are designed to be shared. There's no corporate video should be any different. So when people are marketing, a particular video, they should design it to be shared by someone else. So when you think, okay, let's say I can make a video and I can get, as a local business, I can get 35 people to share it. To us, that's a win, because you now have 35 people that are willing to share your content with their friends. Versus if you did a commercial, who's going to share a commercial?
Yeah, I concur. I remember there was a commercial done a few years back, and it looked like they just basically the morning of decided to make this commercial. They just sort of threw everything together, and I was like, "What? I don't know who this is even appealing to," And it was for this company right down the street, and I actually had some friends that were actually in it. And I'm like, well, I don't get it. I just don't get it. It was for a local car dealership, and usually, they're kind of out there anyway. But this one was especially so poorly done. I mean, maybe we're trying to be ironic. I don't know. I still don't get it. But it's stuff like that. No, I could never imagine anyone sharing a commercial like that.
Right.
So when we talk about things being sticky. The ideas that actually stick, the ideas that actually hang around, and maybe even things that people remember, so if somebody does come to you, do you have do you have maybe even a niche or so that you try to stick to, or is it you want to try to, you have different ideas for various companies? Like you mentioned a dentist, I mentioned a car company. So if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, Dave, I have an idea," or I'm sorry, I have a business, it's a doggy daycare, or I have a business, it's we sell, a big one's restaurants. I imagine, now I'm just talking out loud and just sort of, thinking about loud, restaurants are probably big. So I imagine telling the story about their restaurant is probably very important, so that way people will share it on social, right?
Yeah, and I think it's, for us, it's narrative storytelling for the internet. So, we work with everything from Fortune 1000 down to local realtors, but kind of what we've seen works well. And when clients, because it is something a little different, doing something that's taking a little bit more of a quote unquote risk. So when I say risk, it's something that's a little out of the box. So for example, we recently just did one for a staffing company. It was called 5 Reasons Why. It was about the 5 reasons why you won't get hired, and went through funny things on a resume. So things like that and concepts like that are going to be what are sticky versus something that has just been done over and over and over again.
What are those 5 things that to stay away from?
When you go, you don't want to curse off at the guy when you go in. You don't want to. And I've only ever hired people, so I don't. I actually had a couple jobs when I was younger, but for the most part, since senior year of college, I've only ever worked for myself.
But does anybody really go into a job? And I couldn't imagine being in a job interview and cursing at the person. I couldn't just imagine that. Like, you know what I mean? I couldn't. I mean, does it?
I mean, the worst that you'll get for job interviews, from what I've seen, is like people that'll just kind of ask you what company is this? I'm just like, you just Google it for 5 minutes before you come in for the interview, stuff like that. But I don't want to get fired up around that topic because we already went on a tangent about food.
By the way, what company do you is that, Dave? Viral Ideas Marketing? What do you guys actually do there? By the way, no, I'm just kidding. I know
we sell staplers.
Staplers of all colors.
Yeah.
But no, everyone has that hot button issue, man. And whenever you're around a topic that you're passionate about, and then somebody comes in and just kind of just tries to blow you off or tries to like sneak past the goalie, so to speak, and you're like, what the hell are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are you trying to do? It's like, I mean, I see it in film sometime too, where they're like, I'll tell you what, I'll give you an example, Dave. I actually had a guy who sent me an email one time, told me how much he loved the podcast, how much he loved this and that, how much blah, 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 blah. So he wanted to talk to me. So I end up just, doing a little Skype interview like we're doing now.
Yeah.
And he's asking me all these questions. Like, so how many episodes do you have? This, that, and the other thing. And I go, if you love the podcast so much and you're so into this, wouldn't you know what episode? I announce the episode number before we get into every episode. I always say, this is episode 171 with guests. And I mean, for God's sakes, and it says it right on there too. 5 minutes, 5 seconds even, he could have just found out all these answers.
Yup, or at least do a little bit of your homework before you get on.
So does that happen a lot though, Dave? When do people actually just try to say things like, hey Dave, I want to meet you for coffee, and I just want to, let me buy you a coffee. I'll pick your brain for 5 minutes or whatever about marketing or whatever. And then you end up just, you meet for coffee and they're trying to pitch you a business or something like that. Does that happen a lot?
No, that doesn't happen to me that much. And I'm happy, I'm so early in my career. I'm happy to take any meeting with anyone that wants to talk to me. It's not a big deal to me, especially if it's just a phone call. Kind of with the interview, but we're hiring right now we have two summer interns or 2 fall interns rather that we're hiring. And my biggest pet peeve, and hopefully some of them are listening to this while they're applying. But, it says very clearly in the thing, give us your reel. And then you'll go in and you'll look at their resume and you'll look through the cover letter and there's no reel. So, that's like that's the only requirement we have for summer video or fall video interns is like, send us your reel. And they won't send us their reel. So it's just like, usually those people, when you ask them for their reel and they give it to you, usually there's something else where they're just not detail oriented. Or there's something that you see. It's more than just, reading basic instructions. There's more to it.
Yeah, and this should be a good barometer too. If they come into the interview or whatever and they say, hey, I heard your podcast interview on here, or I heard your podcast interview there, that should be a good interview. That should be a good indicator, because then hey, look, they at least cared enough to listen to a podcast interview while they drove somewhere or they were out walking their dog or whatever. You know what I mean? They cared enough to make that first step.
Exactly. And like even for the setup, like our conversation here was interesting. Like, Carly told me we were doing this. So I listened to, one at the gym and like one, half of one, it's not like I listen to it every week, but like at least you put some time in and you listen to a couple and just to kind of get an idea of what the conversation is going to be like.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, just to go back to that guy I was talking about when I was like, you haven't listened to one episode. I was like, maybe. And honestly, this is where I at least respected him. He was like, well, you talk to a lot of really cool people. And he's like, you look like you have a deep network. And I'm like, well, thank you. I do. And it's
not for you.
Yeah, seriously. I'm like what the hell is this, man? It's like, and Now we're kind of getting on my pet peeve. This is like people want me to like produce their projects, And I get that a lot. I mean, I get that a ton. That's probably the number one question I get in emails. I'm just I just don't even answer them anymore. And it's just like, I don't know if they think that I just sit around, I have nothing to do other than like this podcast and produce a film. The last thing I tried to produce was with a friend of mine, and it went nowhere. And I swore, I was like, I'm never producing another person's project again. Only my stuff, nobody else's stuff. It's just too much of a hassle. You know what I mean? Because you have meetings and stuff like that. You know, you have to pitch VCs. You have to pitch. You have to get private equity. You have to get a
big
private
deal.
place. Yeah, you have to get, lawyers are involved. Why? Because we're drawing up contracts. We're drawing PPMs up, and all these things all matter. And they're just looking at me like,
just produce it. Just produce it. It's interesting. Clients are a little bit like that too. Like, before we work with them, they're like, why does it take this long to produce a video? And I want it tomorrow. And we'll be like, well, it's not like buying, Tylenol at Rite Aid. We have to come up with your concepts. We have to do pre-planning. If you have actors, you have to put out a casting call. You have to, make sure the people that are acting for you are representing your brand. And then, they're like, well, why don't you just pick an actor? Well, you have a brand that you've built for years. You want, some, actor that just has no experience to just, be your representative for your brand. And they go, okay, I get it now. So then eventually kind of once they see the process, it's kind of like then they're happy to kind of allow that time frame to happen.
Yeah, because that commercial, I'm sorry, not commercial, sorry. That will be that's all that is, representing the brand. Again, like you said with actors, you want to make sure there's a saying in business to hire slow, fire fast. And that's what you got to do. You got to hire these actors and crew and everybody slow, and you can't be afraid to let them go too if it's just not working out.
Of course.
But as we go back to making commercials, I have to ask a question too, Dave. Have you ever had, and this has happened to me, and I want to know if it's happened to you. Have you ever had anybody say to you, well, why would I hire you to do videography or to make this marketing component? My daughter's got an iPhone, and she spends all day on Facebook. I could hire her to do it at a fraction of the price. And that's actually happened to me before. I was going to do videography for this guy to just cover all these meetings and this, that, and the other thing. And he goes, but my daughter is on Facebook. My daughter's got a camera. My daughter's in her iPhone. And I said, your daughter doesn't do B2B sales or B2C sales. She doesn't know how to edit anything. I guarantee you that. And I was just wondering, has anything like that ever happened to you?
Oh yeah. I think a lot of people say that when they don't see the value of it. And I have a very strong sales booklet. I do most of the sales for Viral. And, I've seen that a couple of times, and my response is, all right, go have your daughter do it. Call me in 2 months, and then they chuckle or whatever. And they're like, all right, whatever. Because I think a lot of times they don't get it. They think that, I'm producing something for the television, if and that's something that requires crews and everything. But if you're producing something for social, you could just, throw it together really quickly. And it's not like that. There's a lot of psychology that goes into producing something like this. That's more than just, taking a picture or, throwing up a quick selfie video.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you say like, hey, have you'll be calling me in 2 months, that actually happened. But the guy I was talking about, his son actually called me to ask me how to use these different things because they actually tried to make a video. And they were actually saying, hey, could you help me out here? And I was like, no. I was like, I actually helped him out one time, really, because it was a quick question. It was a quick question about how to edit something in I think Premiere. They bought the 30-day trial.
Oh my God.
And later on he asked me something else. I'm like, look, tell your dad, you guys are in over your head, and tell him to write me a check, and then we'll sit down and we'll go over all this stuff. And his dad ended up calling me up, and we ended up actually him actually paying me to do this, and we pulled it out of a nosedive. But it's again, it's stuff like that. It's nowadays people look at it and they go, oh, I can do that because I have an iPad, I have an iPhone or whatever. Yeah. But really, there's so much more to it than just having a ready available camera.
And I think kind of one thing, from someone who owns a company. We've done probably over 300 videos for various companies, and I think one of the biggest things we've learned from it is the level of detail that we're able to go into in a lot of these videos that you almost don't notice, but you notice if they're not there. It's kind of like the biggest thing that people kind of say to us. So I see that detail, but it's just part of it. You know what I mean? That you don't get when you're just doing something that's amateur. You know, it's something might as simple as like a prop there that should be there just because it's like that's a natural environment. Some people don't think to set something like that up, or the lighting and the sound and all everything that goes into it. To make it as real as possible, or to make it in the interpretation that you want it. I think when people do it from an amateur perspective, they're not looking at all these things that make a big impact on how you're marketing.
Yeah, and somebody once told me if you want to know the big difference between the amateur and the professional, the amateur locks the camera down and it never moves.
Right.
It's always just in that one static position, like we're watching a silent movie, and it's like you could see what they're trying to do, and they're just like, look, well, they don't use terms like shots or pans or whatever. They just go, look, we're gonna film this, we're gonna get this, and then we're gonna move on. And we're going to put this all together, and then when they start putting it together, like, oh, this is why. This is why we should.
It's funny you say that about the static shots. We actually I think only own 2 tripods. The rest is sliders.
Awesome.
So it's all sliders or Ronin, whatever stuff to keep the shots moving.
Yeah, and I think that's key too, because not only is it awesome for viral, but again, you want people to share this. You want people to say, hey, I had a friend who made a drone video and people were like sharing it left, right, and center. And it's just that, those ideas that are shareable. And, again, it's always that cool content. Everyone wants to post the next cool thing, right?
Of course, always and forever.
So, Dave, we've been talking for about, 45 minutes now. So, just to sort of put a period at the end of this whole conversation, is there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about now that we get a chance to, or do you have any sort of final thoughts you wanted to say?
No. I guess kind of like the biggest message that I always like to get across is, I think a lot of times filmmakers and creatives come up with these amazing ideas for films and for short films, and I think a lot more could be doing work with corporations if they applied that same mindset to companies that they apply to making a film. And it works really well. We've seen it work really well with companies, and it's just a matter of a filmmaker's willingness to kind of maybe bend a little bit to the corporations, and a company's willingness to just take a little bit of a risk to do something a little bit different that might be able to get the word across.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time. It's a very interesting time for creatives too. It's just being able to, like this, the barriers to podcasting have gone down, but the good podcasts have stayed around. You know what I mean? And I've managed to sort of sneak in there too when no one was looking. But the good podcasts, like Mark Maron's WTF, the Nerdist and stuff like that. Every week they're producing it, and you could hear it. You can hear the difference between a good podcast and a bad podcast, about the mics and the editing and everything else. You can tell when you're listening to an actual podcast that somebody cared about making.
Exactly.
It's the same with video.
Exactly.
So Dave, where can people find you out online?
So check out the website, viralideamarketing.com, or email if you can. Feel free to reach out to me. I can give you the best pretzel advice in the world. Or video or business, whatever. It's dave@viralideamarketing.com. Feel free to. I'm a very helpful person. I love to always get back. So if there's anything I can help anyone with, or if anyone wants to, talk about a project or anything, I'm happy to, happy to extend some time to you.
I hope the professors at Temple, utilize you and I mean that in a good way. I hope they are actually saying like, hey, look, we have an alumni here. He's out there kicking ass and taking names. I hope that they're doing that. I mean, in a very positive way.
Yeah, and I was lucky. I had a lot of really great professors, and some of them actually, I've been really honored to come back and present a few times to various classes, and I'm actually very happy and honored to be able to do it. Just and to give back to the alma mater like that.
And that's good too, because again, Temple, blown away by the school. huge school. If you've ever been to Temple, by the way, for everyone listening to this on like the West Coast or in other countries, because I'm very popular in Canada. And
really? You know what's great about Canada is Nathan For You. You ever watch that show?
No, I haven't.
So it's just this guy who does these like crazy marketing campaigns. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening that have actually seen it. He's coming back in September. I just recently saw, like right before we hopped on, I saw an announcement about it. I'm like, really, you would actually love the show. One of the funniest shows I've ever watched. Just these ridiculous marketing campaigns. But he's from Canada. So you're popular in Canada, maybe a little bit more so than Nathan For You.
Yeah, just a tad bit.
Just a tad bit.
And then there's Justin Trudeau from the Canadian Prime Minister. But
he's third on the list.
Exactly. He's just
Bullis first, Nathan For You second, and then the Prime Minister third.
Yeah. So I can't walk down the streets of British Columbia without being just mobbed by people. So it just, when I look at analytics too, I know you're a big analytics guy too, Dave. I sometimes see, I'm like, why is somebody from Saudi Arabia playing this podcast? Why is somebody from, I just see it and all over the world. So one of my badges of honor is I have all 50 states. I have all 6 continents, because we're not going to count Antarctica. No one's there except for maybe Kurt Russell and The Thing.
Don't write off Antarctica. Maybe this one is the first one.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, we could be a big hit in Antarctica. You never know.
it would just be unbelievable, because I actually was trying to figure out if there was even a way, and I'm like, well, it's kind of like if somebody is on like one of those stations and plays it, that counts. That would be it. I was like, please, turn on
just one listen. You can listen for 3 minutes and then hang up. We were still talking about cheesesteaks then.
So yeah, so I've hit all 6 continents, and now I'm slowly working to have at least one download in every country. If I could get one in every country, there's only a few left, by the way, which is funny enough. Only a few left. Yeah, it's all this started, and that's why I want to talk to you, Dave. Just got doing all this media work. I think media is so important now, and I think small businesses too. The social, the media part. Just being on Facebook, Twitter, and finding their niche. And I always go back to a restaurant. If you're a restaurant, I always say Facebook, Instagram, right off the bat. Facebook, Instagram.
What's crazy, and I know we're kind of running up on time, but we're working with a restaurant, and they put out $20 in Facebook ads, to people that work in local businesses surrounding them. They do sandwiches, something like that. Lying out the door. $20, I imagine those customers. Imagine those customers. That's their first time in there. They come back, a couple times a week. Now you got, let's say they buy your sandwich for $20. Now you have your $20 twice a week. $10 a sandwich. Now you have customers that are spending $1,000 with you a year. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. By the way, I know you got to go too. Have you ever seen that interview that Gary Vee did with John Taffer? And John Taffer explained how to actually keep customers. So basically, I'll just give you the quick, concise version of this conversation. He said the first time someone comes to your restaurant, he goes, there's statistical analysis of a first time, second time, third time, and then a fourth time customer. And he said the first time they come in, what he does is they get a red napkin. Hey, this is your first time here, Dave? All right, come this way. Here's your complimentary rib dinner, your prime rib dinner. Hey, how did you like your prime rib? Well, they're a first-time customer, as does all the wait staff and everybody else, because they have that red napkin. Nobody else except first-time customers have that red napkin. Hey, how'd you enjoy your rib dinner? Oh, we loved it. Second time around. Great, you did? Well, here you go. Here's a coupon, and you handwrite the coupon. 20% off the chicken dinner or whatever else. Try this. You're going to love it. They come back second time, and you keep doing this because it statistically has proven that a fourth time, if they come back a fourth time, they'll come back for life. Because they love they have those experiences. So you're not marketing to them from one visit or 2 visits or 3 visits, but you're marketing them for all 4 of those visits, so they'll keep coming back.
I see the same thing in my business. People do one video with us, and they'll do a second and a third. And our best customers, we've worked with over 100 companies at this point. And our best customers give us, referrals, and they keep ordering from us over and over again. But you're to that point. It takes a couple times before they get in, and they'll kind of trust you after a little bit.
Yeah, and then it becomes just, hey, you know what? I'm really in the mood for a good meal. Hey, I'm in the mood for, a good video. I need, you know what I mean?
It's like whip me one up in 24 hours.
Yeah. Come on, I need it now. What's so hard about it?
Yeah, just put the turkey on the bottom and just turn the camera on.
Yeah, exactly, right. I just want a picture of a stove.
Yeah.
Oh man. I could talk to you for a little while longer because I have a funny story about a guy who tried to make a video of a restaurant, and I should have got it into the end of this conversation, but I know we're running out of time. Everybody, everything Dave and I talked about will be at davebullis.com. Twitter, it's at Dave_Bullis, and I will link to all of David's show notes. All of David's channels in the show notes, and I will also link to his email address, so you can take him out for coffee because no one's taking him out for coffee. Come on.
Yeah, I like pretzels. Maybe we'll go to the pretzel place.
That there you go. That's the hook.
That's the hook.
The first person that should ask you about going out, let me buy you a pretzel.
Done.
That's the person that's taken the time and said, hey. Then the second person has to say, hey, you know what? Maybe
I don't even drink coffee.
You don't drink coffee? My God.
Not at all.
Wow. I don't know how you survive, man.
I just never started, so I never have to stop.
Yeah, seriously. That's the cycle I'm in. Once you start drinking coffee all the time, and then once you really get into it, you start drinking like the Bulletproof coffee, like they do out there. That's like $80 a cup, and you're like, I had a friend of mine one time tell me he was broke, and I'm like, well, you're drinking like $150 coffee. If you ever get into Bulletproof coffee, the stuff you have to do to make that actually like what it is like the brain octane fuel and the stuff you have to put on there. And
we actually have two coffee shop clients too. I also don't eat ice cream. We have one ice cream shop. I think they just appreciate the honesty, I just tell them up front, like I don't do this.
Like, sorry, I don't actually use your product, but
we'll make you a good video.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I mean, I know exactly what you mean, and finding that core, the essence of the product, what makes them, and that's so key. And Dave, I want to say again, everybody listening to this, I'm going to put Dave's stuff in the show notes. Contact him in the Philadelphia area, and take him out on a pretzel meeting. That'll be the new thing. No more coffee meetings. There's pretzel meetings now. That's the big thing.
All day, baby. Let's go.
Dave, I want to say thank you so much for coming on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.